Hello, this is Bob Shore from Nancy's Knickknacks. In this short video we'll show you the configuration of our new cone winder, which we're announcing and starting to ship on March 27th, 2013. The system will consist of our standard ball winder, but it'll have a small diameter spindle mounted on it. The normal spindle will not be included with this configuration. As you can see, this is the normal spindle that's typically used by knitters. But that will be replaced by the small diameter spindle that you see mounted on the unit right now. The other option you have, of course, is to buy the standard ball winder and then buy the optional cone winder adapter kit, which would include this small diameter spindle and all the parts that are required to convert a standard ball winder to a cone winder. What you see there are three knobs. These knobs have rubber stoppers attached to them, and basically they are used to secure the top of the cones, the three different types of cones that can be used with this unit, and I'll show those in a second. But there's three knobs with integrated rubber stoppers, and they fit exactly into the tops of the spindles, or excuse me, into the tops of the cones. You also see two O-rings there. Those are used, one is used with one size of a cone, the other is used with a different size cone. And of course you see our nut driver, which is used to adjust the tension on the O-ring, which is that O-ring right there, and that tool adjusts the two screws that are underneath the spindle arm. You also get 5 cones, paper cones, with the unit. These will be the cones we offer as standard. When you have to buy cones, you have to buy them in the thousands. So we're only going to offer one cone. However, you're going to be able to wind yarn on 3 different size cones, and we'll show you that in a second. This particular cone measures 1 inch at the top of the inside diameter and 2 5/8 inches at the bottom. You also see our standard paper yarn ball core. This is made with acid-free paper, unlike the cones, and I'm not quite sure what type of paper that is. I'll have to find out, but our paper at least is acid-free, so there's no possibility of having any transfer of any chemicals or what have you to your yarn when it's wrapped on a yarn ball core. But since those are industry standard cores, or cones I should say, there should be no problem in that area, I don't think either. Give you a close-up of one of the knobs. This is for a large cylindrical knob, or excuse me, a large cylindrical cone. It's got a large rubber stopper on it, and the knob goes right through it, so it's stuck together, no problem, and I'll show you how that's used in a moment. But there's 3 different sizes for the different size cones. So regardless of what size cone you have, with the one exception of the cones that have a very small opening at the top, and I thought I had one around here, but I can't find it right now. But anyway, that will not work on this spindle, and the reason, of course, is that the spindle diameter up here is much bigger than the inside diameter of the cone that I'm describing anyway. Here's the cone that I couldn't find a moment ago, but you can see the small opening on it. These cones are used quite a bit, but unfortunately we can't get it onto our unit, so that cone will not be able to be wound onto this system. Here's one of the other cones that it can wind. This measures 2 3/8 across the bottom and 1 1/4 inches across the top. This measures 1 5/8 across the top. This is a cylindrical cone, as you can see, and 1 3/4 across the bottom. This also can be wound using our cone winder. Here you can see the 3 cone types that we're able to wind on our unit. The one on the left is a cylindrical one I mentioned. The one in the middle is a slightly larger top opening than the one we're going to offer. And then the one on the right is going to be our standard cone. And they each use a different knob to secure the top into the spindle. And they also use, at least in the one in the middle and the one on the right, they use a O-ring that goes around the base of the small diameter spindle, and I'll show you that in a second. And that helps secure the bottom of the cone against the body of the spindle. So they use different O-rings and different knobs, but by doing that, we're able to successfully mount these 3 types of cones. I'm not quite sure anybody else can do that. So even though on the one hand you have to you have to maneuver these different components. Typically people are going to be using the same type cone anyway, but if they did want to switch, they can do so with this particular model. So I'll show you now how the system works. You take, in our case, we're going to use our cone, which has a 1-inch opening at the top. You take the clear belt and you put it over the bottom of the small diameter spindle. Then you take the cone, put it on. Now it's solid down there. And then what we need to do is to secure the top by screwing in the knob. And once you secure that, it's snug on there. Can't jiggle. There's no problem. You know, to remove it, you simply unscrew the knob. That squeaking that you hear, by the way, is the rubber on the rubber stopper rubbing against the inside surface of the cone. So there's no problem there. There's no noise being generated by the spindle itself. This is a hardwood spindle. We sink a 1/4 insert into the wood there, so we don't envision any problems with that since we're not putting any load on this fastener of any type. When you take the other size, this middle size cone here, we put the black O-ring down because it's a different dimension down there, and you just put it around halfway down. Take the other knob and screw that in. And secure. Won't jiggle. And you remove it the same way we did the other. Now if you were doing cone after cone, you'd leave these rings on there. And in the case of the cylindrical one, there's no need for any ring on the bottom. You just put it on there. And the reason there's no need for a ring is because it pretty much matches the diameter of the spindle down there. And that's secure. So we have 3 different size cones on one unit. I don't think there's anyone that's ever been able to do that. But of course there's not very many cone winders out there. But even the large industrial ones, although they probably have a way to do it, but you're talking thousands of dollars for that particular unit. And of course you can use our yarn ball core system, which we've had for many years. I think since 2006 or 2007. And you simply wind your ball like you normally would on the spindle. You press the core against the top, which is slightly smaller than the diameter of the spindle. And then you pull your yarn ball up to this core. Now you can mount that for many different things. You can mount them on rods. We have a special holder that holds these things. So these are also highly useful, and it can also be used with this system. It can also be used with the standard ball winder as well. If you've already got our ball winder, then all you would need to buy is the cone winder adapter kit, which consists of all the parts you see there. 3 knobs, the 2 O-rings, the small diameter spindle, 5 cones, also 1 yarn ball core so you can see how that works, and a glue kit. And the reason you need a glue kit is when we ship this to you, this small diameter spindle, you're going to have to mount some spacers in there, plastic washers basically. And once you adjust that to your specific ball winder so this O-ring rides correctly on the shaft, I'll show you here in a second. But this shaft is coming up from the middle of the unit. When you mount the spindle, since these are all made by hand, of course, all these components, there can be a different fit. So what we want you to do is put the right number of spacers in. Once you determine what that is, you'll glue them in there. We give it a kit and instructions, and then you'll be assured that that'll fit properly. We can't do that here because you have the ball winder. On new ball winder shipments or new cone winder shipments, of course, we will do that process here because we're shipping the ball winder with that small diameter spindle fitted to it. But in a case where you're buying the kit, you'll have to do that. It's not a big deal. We've sold these small diameter spindles for years. People have had to do that previously with that purchase. Now the difference here on the new one is that it comes with that insert drilled into the top. And this particular unit, I noticed, does not have a slot across it. Normally you'd have a slot across here. So this particular unit does not, but that's not the way it will come. It will come with a slot across there so you can insert your yarn when you want to wind a normal ball. So not only are you able to wind cones on this, you're going to be able to wind balls of yarn. The only limitation, of course, is that you have this height. But you can see you can get like a 4 to 4.5 inch ball on there with no problem. It's just that you can't put a 7-inch ball because you can't go over this ridge. But for most normal users, that typically covers most of their needs. You can also see that I have the handle on this particular unit, and that's how you would, of course, wind your cones. But you could also elect to get the motorized power base that we offer, and of course you could make that into a motorized cone winder. It's the same system we have for our basic ball winder, and since this is a ball winder, you know, it'll work with all the components that we offer for that particular product line. So you can use it manually or you can use it on a motorized basis. You can also use it with our electronic metering system. The electronic metering system would measure the yarn as it goes to the cone, and then it would shut off the ball winder when it measures rather the quantity of yarn that you specify. This particular video does not include any demonstrations of the winding action. I have that on a different video, so if you want to see that, you can see that on our YouTube page. And we have that also with use of the I think the yarn pet as well. But this system is pretty impressive. You know, you're able to take the existing ball winder, and if you don't have the small diameter spindle, or even if you do, if you have an older small diameter spindle, you can return that to us, and we will insert this insert in there for you for a nominal fee, and then return that unit to you, and you would be able to convert your existing small diameter spindle into a cone winder. But you know, this system is pretty impressive because we have so many units in the field, and this is a proven design, this unit. So now that we've been able to adapt cone winding to this unit, it's pretty impressive. Not only are we able to wind cones, we're able to wind 3 different cones. These are the 3 most popular cones on the planet. The only other one that we can't wind is that skinny mini one that I showed you a moment ago, and unfortunately it's just too small. But I don't see that as a serious limitation at all. I mean, why would you use that cone if you don't have those cones and you buy the cones that we offer, or the other 2 cones from other suppliers? You'll be able to handle those cones without any problem. It's just that thin top one that we just can't handle. Here's a cone that I wound before when preparing the other video, and you can see it actually winds a ball on the cone surface. It doesn't wind it like a normal cone, but it winds it like a ball, but it works great. It works especially well when you're removing the yarn, and unless you have a real need for some reason to actually wind it like a cone, then you know, you may find this not to be acceptable. But we've found that in virtually all the applications that we're familiar with, that it doesn't really matter how you get the yarn onto the cone, as long as you get it on the cone. If somebody has to have a cone for a specific reason, then we can get it on the cone. It won't completely fill the cone, as you can see. I could continue wrapping on that cone or winding on that cone, and I could get quite a bit of yarn on it, but it will never go from the top to the bottom like a normal cone. However, when you're pulling the yarn off, let's say you're feeding another machine and you mounted this on the floor, there's absolutely no problem with getting the yarn off. And we've demonstrated that in other videos, and you can see that. And last, let me say that for a long time we wanted to be able to make a cone winder. We initially thought of using our own spindle system here to do that, but turned out that we weren't able to secure the cone to the spindle. But now with this system, we're able to do that. The combination of the small diameter spindle with this insert in the top, the knob system, which the rubber actually does a great job of holding and preventing the cone from turning. You know, it works really well. We're able to secure the cones on there. You're able to wind your yarn on them, and magically now we're able to use an existing product with a few alterations and a few extra components. We're able to make a cone winder. So if you've been waiting for a cone winder, especially a motorized one, this is about the newest thing you're going to be able to get. Thank you.